All right. So we just wrapped up our corporate partnerships portion with some phenomenal corporate leaders coming through and bringing us, like y'all said, transparency. It was everything. Rolling into our founder section. So as these founders come on, if you're able to, I would love to see your shining, beautiful faces. If not, it's all good. I get it. Some days I'm a Zombie too. Whatever makes you feel comfortable coming into the space. Yeah, and we're just going to be we're waiting for a couple more folks to come on, but in the interim, I would love for everybody in the chat, right, just to make sure that you're getting those questions ready and put those questions in our Q&A section. It's going to come in, hot and fast, and so I just want to make sure that all the questions that you're getting, put them in there, and then you can upvote, right? So a lot of times, like, you'll see somebody say something and you're like, oh yeah, double click on that, and that's how we kind of like lay everything out as we're going. All right, boom, boom, boom. Looks like everybody's almost in here. Hello, founders. I'm so excited. To see y'all. Going into our second one here. And just we're gonna kind of popcorn it around. I want it to be super organic and all the things. So, tell us the first question up. This is for everybody. When you want to answer it, just come off mute. But basically, tell us obviously your company, tell us the role of your company. Give us your 30-second pitch about what your company is, and then to throw in a little fun, a little something. Tell us one word that describes your startup journey to this point. No expletives, please. I'd be the first one to come off and try to get muted on some stuff. But yeah, so tell us the name of your company, tell us the role of your company, and then give us your 30-second pitch in one word that describes your journey thus far. Kick it off. Whoever's ready.
I can kick it off. Hi, everybody. My name is Azine. Azine. Always feel free to ask. I am the CEO of Skin Muse, and we are a premium beauty brand for your soul's vessel. We use the 5 of the richest ingredients in the world to create products that give you most luxurious body care, keep you moisturized, even skin tone. And I like to say we are lowering the access barrier to luxury beauty. One word that would describe my journey so far is miraculous. Yeah, miraculous. That's the word I would use. Did I answer all the questions?
You did, and I love the miraculous. We're gonna chew into that a little bit later, but thank you for that. Welcome.
Okay, thank you.
I'll go second. I'm Neandre Broussard. I am the CEO of Black Menswear and the CEO of BMW Digital. What we're most known for from a Black menswear perspective, if you've ever been on the internet, you've seen these brothers in the suits, hundreds of brothers together, collective, connecting and bonding. That's our movement. We sparked a global movement for Black men to have a safe space. Now, the beauty of that is that we've grown that into a cultural impact agency. And so what we do as a cultural impact agency, we actually work with brand partners and small businesses to understand the ROI on community engagement and community development. We deliver real, raw, and authentic, purposeful conversations through various formats, through content development, through influencer marketing, through strategic consulting, experiential activations, and data development to help our brands really understand what we mean by there's ROI to bringing people together. And how can you then develop a community so that way if your product sucks, because we know about product variations, your first product might be great, but your second product isn't. How do you maintain your community through that? And so that's what we help them to understand that. And the one word that I would say, I'm kind of going to stick on the same vein, is blessed. Blessed.
Ooh, all this good energy out here with these journeys. I love that. Thank you. All right, who's up next?
I can go next. Hey, y'all. I'm Dumebi Igbuna. I'm the co-founder of Cheszy, and we help companies retain and promote diverse talent by helping them build, manage, and track employee resource groups. For those who don't know, employee resource groups are like identity-based, employee-led groups meant to foster DEI in the workplace. So think like Black at Facebook or Women at Facebook. One word to, I won't be as like positive as but probably like volatile would probably be my word. Lots of ups and downs, but it's been beautiful kind of overall.
There's got to be a spectrum, right? We've got miraculous over here and we've got volatile over here, everything in between. Thank you so much for that. All right, Chandler.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Volatile probably would have been my word as well. So I feel you. My name is Chandler Malone. I'm the founder of a company called Boot Up that helps people upskill and reskill for technical roles. We've placed people at companies like JP Morgan Chase, Dell Technologies, Home Depot, Best Buy, just to name a few. And then also the CEO of a company called Path AI. We've built an AI career mentor that can basically give you any type of advice from careers in plumbing all the way to becoming a surgeon. Then creates an applicant tracking system optimized resume for you. Because right now, about 80% of candidates are basically getting weeded out during the ATS layer. And then finally, we'll bring jobs to you from the internet based upon what's on your resume that you've got basically the best likelihood of being able to get. And so I'll say, my one word, I guess, would be perseverance through the journey.
See, look at that. Look at that. Goodness gracious. I'm inspired and we're not even really in the weeds yet. So this is everything. Thank y'all so much. And I see our behind the scenes at Mogul. We're putting in the links. So like support all the founders. I'm checking everybody out. I'm over here looking at your skin. I'm like, yes. Okay. What's happening with the Muse? I'm coming through. But yeah, so in our last panel, right, we were just talking a lot about impressions and due diligence and connectivity and alignment and all that kind of stuff. And this is a question to anybody, but when you look back on your experience, when you initially started pitching brands for partnerships, what were some of the early mistakes that you made and learned from, right? So what was the mistake and then what did you learn from it? And anybody can take this one.
I know for us as a unit, one of our earliest mistakes was that we told the brand partner what we wanted to do. We didn't come to them as a partner, right? We came to them as we're expert in this and we've done this great. And you want to work with us for this, but it didn't line up with what their KPIs were, right? They didn't care about that. And so while we were tooting our own horn, it didn't add value to our brand partners. And so we started looking at us like, why are we having so many great conversations that we feel as though now we're walking out of there like, okay, bet this going to come back around. And then it's like, we've decided to go another route. And to be able to understand how it is that our brand partners, what their actual values are, what they're looking for in this season of campaign, right? What they're looking for the rest of this year. And if we're talking about next year, well, what are their goals for next year? Because it's different from this year. And so how did we really take the step back to understand how do we come to the table and build a relationship versus come to the table and just be who we are? I think Mikhail said on the last panel, you're courting a new relationship, right? So you have to have compromise. I've been married for 10 years now, and there was no way that I could be married this long if I didn't have compromise out the gate. And compromise doesn't mean you go away from who you are. Compromise means that you find a good middle ground that both sides can benefit from. And I think as we're looking for brand partnerships, that's one thing that we all have to remember. It's not just what's in it for me, it's what's in it for them as well.
Wait, first of all, congrats on the decade. That's phenomenal. But it was the word. Compromise is not about going away from who you are. Goodness gracious, that's a podcast right there. Thank you for that. That's amazing. Anybody else want to kind of double tap, want to answer in on this question? What were some of the biggest mistakes that you made in that early partnership game? And then what did you learn from it and how did you pivot from it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we had, kind of a similar experience, right? Before you go sell, there's this like customer discovery layer that kind of has to be done first, in terms of just like understanding what people want, right? Understanding what people need. And so for us, right, came into a lot of these relationships with a product that we had built without, doing a whole lot of customer discovery. And then it was like we were kind of trying to fit like a square peg into like a circular hole, whatever the phrase is, right? But I think for us, right, like we actually had to go back and reshape product, when we started asking questions, rather than just, leading with what we had built. And that took time and money, away from us. But at the same time, like this is a journey. And so, definitely a huge learning experience for us as well.
Yeah, one thing I would add is that I think in the early days, we've primarily leveraged partnerships from like a go-to-market perspective. So as a chance to get us in front of prospective customers. And I think at the beginning, we were trying to partner with everyone. And we found that they weren't necessarily in alignment with what we were trying to do. So I think you just have to be mindful of like quality over quantity. You don't want it to dilute your own brand image, your own brand values. So just making sure that it's the right people as opposed to all the people.
I agree with everything. The only thing I would add is having clear next steps. We give like production timelines, like we're babysitting you. It's like, okay, by August 15th, we'll hear back. If we don't hear back, circle back. But we always make it clear before leaving the meeting that this is what you should expect next from us. So that way, everybody's busy. People have different projects, people reaching out to them. So if you keep the timeline going in a flow, a cadence that the client can easily follow, or the partner can easily follow, it's just easier for you not to get lost in the sauce.
I love that. That speaks to the previous panel talking about just like the pre-packaging, making it so easy, right? Eliminating those barriers. I love that. I think this one is gonna actually, I would love to have you answer this one, Chandler. Just about like what we've been talking about with like the relationships and nurturing them in regards to the partnerships. What type of advice would you give founders on nurturing relationships that they would like to turn into partnerships, right? So like maybe somebody, maybe you have an in, you're already kind of engaging with them in some perspective, but you haven't really come out and like started turning it towards a partnership. How would you do that? What are some of the things that they could do to do that as founders?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first piece is just understanding, right? It's not like you're just selling to a large entity. Yes, you are, but at the end of the day, you're selling to another human being, right? And so like those just like relationship principles that you use to like warm up to another person that you would like to, be friends with or have in your life, like a lot of those things are the same. And so like I'll say for myself, I spend more money, I feel like, than a lot of companies at our age or at our stage in terms of like actually physically going to events, like actually like pulling up on people in person. And so that's one of those things where like the first time you meet someone in person, like they're not going to cut you a check. You're not going to get the partnership. You're not going to get the deal. But at the same time, like that in-person time creates so much deeper of a connection than just doing a Zoom call, just doing an email. And then if you're able to follow up and see people, 2 to 3 times over the course of a year, while you're still continuing to grow, right? While they still have, their KPIs and targets that they need to hit, when the partnership conversation does come around, right? All of a sudden that person's just so much more comfortable with you. And at the end of the day, like this is their job. And so they're going to go spend their money, right? Like stake their reputation, right? Their performance on somebody that they feel more comfortable with and just have a higher level of trust with.
Yep. 100%. I like the in-person, right? Like again, people are being able to meet in person. The vibes are also totally different in person. You can be talking to somebody, right? On a Zoom or in a thread or in email, and then you meet them and just like when the vibes click, now it's like, I actually want to work with this person because I'm becoming a champion for that human. So I feel you on that one. So, okay, the next question is, specifically like when you're having a strong brand presence which is crucial for early stage startups, right? Could you share an example of a successful partnership that significantly boosted, I'm Chezzy, right? I'm going to ask Chezzy this one. Significantly boosted Chezzy's visibility in the early stage days.
Yeah. So again, we primarily leverage partnerships to get in front of the people that we want to work with. So one of our earliest partnerships was actually with a DEI consultant from the Rise journey. From the beginning, we've really heavily invested in our content just because we are in a new space. It takes a lot of education just to make people aware of, why they should invest in technology for their employee resource groups when they've been doing it with the status quo for the last 20 plus years. But then it's also a way for us to establish ourselves as thought leaders in the space to build that brand presence. And for a while, we were creating that content ourselves, but we had very limited bandwidth as like 2 co-founders, very limited resources. And then we also realized that we didn't know everything. So it was just a good opportunity to have someone else kind of come in, be a part of our events, publish content on our behalf, do some of these other things. And it was also a good opportunity for her to get her name in front of the people that were consuming our content as well. And that was a partnership that has kind of blossomed all the way into like a referral-based partnership to where if someone comes to us and they're not necessarily ready for technology, but they're into, or they're looking for like training or consulting, we can pass them over to the Rise journey. If someone comes to them and they're kind of past the point of needing consulting or training, they need like technology, she'll pass them over to us. So what grew from like a, mutually beneficial, just kind of like, you do some content for us here, we'll do some content from you here, has now turned into something where like we've both given each other so many customers. So that's something that, has been helpful for us.
That network integration is huge, right?
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so let's see. So Ejene, I have a question for you, right? So skincare, super competitive industry. So how did you differentiate your brand to attract partnerships with companies like Pinterest and Amex, right? Like what type of advice would you give to founders that are in similarly competitive markets? Because whenever people are talking to investors and everything else, are talking about oversaturated markets and XYZ, whatever, it's like, no. What is that UVP? Like, what is that differentiator that you come out with and everything just kind of melts away?
We like to say our brand positioning is at the intersection of beauty, culture, and community. And what we really thrive off is using the data that we have acquired, the focus groups, just talking to our customers. So we really like to stand authentic in that message. What I mean by that is, for instance, when we first started, we were kind of going with the crowd in beauty. Usually people are catering to the younger crowd. They're leaning into things that make you feel youthful and et cetera. And when we started looking at who's shopping our products, it's the aunties, it's 35 plus, right? It's it's the women who love to go to church. They love a good brunch. They love to travel. And when we started noticing that, we really just said, okay, this is our customer. This is who they are. This is how they interpret luxury. We're just going to focus on that. And immediately, because we had such a clear and authentic message, it resonated with the right audience. So bringing us partnerships like Amex, for instance, you guys are doing something cool. Our card holders, for instance, fall into this demographic. We love to partner with you on a pop-up, a shop by Black. Pinterest, the same thing. Beauty is a very much, it's a big market space on Pinterest. It's like one of the best ways to drive revenue for social media. So for Pinterest, we court that account manager. We're showing them like, hey, you guys are doing all of this, but who's taking care of those aunties? Who's taking care of the trendsetters of beauties? This is a cultural niche that up until now, nobody has really highlighted, and we've really leaned into that. And they love it because we pick something different. It's not so different where they have to build a new, structure for us, but it's different enough where we bring value to them. Another one that I really liked that was kind of like a surprising partnership was with the Dream Hotel. So when we pitch them, I like to say when we pitch, we have three options. We pitch one thing that we see that you might need that you don't think about, one thing that you do need that you voiced in some capacity, and a value that we bring. So when we came to them, we were pitching against Karl Lagerfeld. Now, if you don't know Karl Lagerfeld, he's a big deal. So immediately, imposter syndrome is like, you're not going to get it. But we did our best. Now, because we did our best, we didn't get it, but we got a chunk of their luxury suites. From there, it gave us a partnership to start using the luxury suite to create content. From creating content, they pick it up. They want more partnerships. We have events there. We have they have us use their rooftop for parties and fundraisers. So it's now gone beyond let's be in your bathroom, but let's also now use that space as real estate and also be sold in your hotels. So I hope that answers that question. Sorry.
Yes, it does. No, it totally does. I'm going to drop you my email though, so I can get an invite to the suites. But also like those three points of like something that you think they need, something that like that hit it right on the head, like having that type of like pitch position again, like how strategic. I want to make sure everyone in the audience, like y'all are listening to the intentionality that these founders are moving forward within these partnerships and the simplicity, like distilling everything down. Like I'm getting so much of that and it's phenomenal. So thank you. Yeah, we're going to hit you up, Neandre. So pricing your partnership appropriately, right, is key, but it's also challenging, right? It can be hella challenging. So could you share experiences around that and what you've learned about setting that pricing that truly reflects your brand's value? Because I heard the two parts of your brand, right? So like figuring out that pricing and setting it forward. How do you do that?
So first thing you gotta do is know the landscape. right? You got to know what they're typically going to pay somebody within that space to deliver those results, right? If you're doing an experiential event, they're going to give you a budget that's different if you're just talent coming to an event versus if you're doing the full production. And you can't go into the event asking for the full production budget when you're only doing one part of the actual production, if that makes sense, right? So when we think about it, it's like, okay, and this is one of my absolutely favorite partnerships that we had last year with Woodford Reserve. And you think about Woodford Reserve, you think about, okay, they're a whiskey company. Woodford came to us and they said, we want to do something. We want to do something that highlights the Black jockey experience as a part of the Kentucky Derby, right? And so for us, we said, okay, well, we have a way about galvanizing people together, right? And for us to galvanize people together, we got to do it in a very elevated space. We got to do it to the nines. Like, people look at our platform and they see this elevated experience. So this is what we have to do. In order to do this is not something that we can do for $25,000. I'm just going to tell you right now, right? It can't be done because you want it in a certain level. That certain level comes with a 6-figure budget. And we had to help them to understand, well, it's a 6-figure budget, not because you're just hiring us to throw a party. No, you're hiring us to cultivate the invitations, how the invitations go out. You're hiring us to rent the venue that's in a very exclusive venue to rent. You're hiring us to handpick everybody that's going to come to this event. You're hiring us to make this event look beautiful. Well, we've got to put all those pieces together, and you're hiring us, and we need to get paid. So that's another aspect of it. When you're putting these packages together, really you can break all the stuff down, right? And you can break it down and you can average it out by time, by hours. Okay, it's going to take us 15 hours to do this part of the project at $100 an hour. It's going to take us 20 hours to do this part of the project at $25 an hour. And you can then line item everything to where you have that, you have that confidence going into that with XYZ budget because you've quantified every single aspect of the overall project. And I think a lot of times we get mixed up because we throw such a large number out there without anything that ties back to it. So it's like, well, do this, pay me this. And it's like, well, if you can quantify it to me and help me understand how that's going to drive my results, now the ROI is there. One more thing I'll say to that and I'll shut up. Results are the most important thing. And so even if you can start on the back end and explain the results, and then you're going to lead up to, and this is why it costs this much. So they're already hooked because they're like, okay, well, if you're pretty sure that you can get me my net sentiment goes from 50% to 98%. Okay, so people like our brand a little bit more. You have a new market for us to lean into that's really, really tapped into us. Okay, it cost me how much dollars? But remember, I told you that the result of this is going to take your brand to the next level. More people are going to be talking about it, the impressions that can come with it. Now you can quantify all that. Now that's a better pill for them to swallow. And then they can go find dollars from maybe they might have to go to another department. Maybe if it's one department that's doing the partnership, but you know what? I can bring in marketing as a part of this, or I can bring in community outreach as a part of this, or I can bring in, the brand partnerships team as a part of this because now everybody has different budgets. But if you've helped them to quantify the results, that can help you to understand how much you kind of go to the table for the partnership.
Yes, that was amazing. Data, right? Like I'm hearing that across the board. Everybody's talking about the value of data. So not just the value of the data that you provide, Neandre, which is like what you were just talking about and how you can back into that offering, right? But like, I know that as Anae, you were just talking about previously about looking at their data first, right? Mm-hmm. Looking at their data in order to make it super strategic. So data across the board, I appreciate that. And that's really incredible insight. This next question, before we go to Q&A, because we're almost at Q&A, but this first question is specifically, and anybody can answer this, but we would love for you to share specific challenges that you faced during your negotiation. Right. So now you're in the negotiations, they're happening, and we all hit some potholes and you hit some of those things. But how did you navigate through that? I feel like I have a hint based on the conversations we've been having so far. I feel like I have a hint as to what it is. But if y'all can give us, you don't have to talk about the company if you don't want to. We can, but you can if you are so inclined. But, what the specific kind of hiccup was and how you moved past it. And anybody can take this one.
I could start. Something I always say is stand in your truth, and the world will make room for you. Starting out, I used to hear all the time. I still do. Somebody literally told me in a meeting, "Our ethnic aisle is full." Like, yeah, I should print that because I always remember it. And I'm like, okay, is your body care aisle full? What's up? We still didn't put our products in there, but that really taught me to be, I'm so direct and ruthless in my approach in these things where it's like, let's not waste our time. Let's not waste our time. If this is not, I don't need to be on 10 meetings if it's not a yes. Like if you, let's not waste our time. So I'm very much I listen to my gut. I stand in my truth, and the world really will make room for you. All of us bring so much value with our businesses. So if it's the right soil, the seed will fertilize. If it's not, plant somewhere else. That's my quick little advice. Mm-hmm.
Whew. Y'all are gonna mess around and see so many sweatshirts with all your sayings on it. Yes, let me know the sizes you want. We could do a little rush share, but yes, if the seed is not, plant somewhere else, please and thank you. Anybody else wanna double click on any of that or expand and give us just, partnership stickiness, things that came up, hurdles that came up, and then how you navigated through that?
I think, I talked about this, in the very beginning, right? Coming out of the gate, we built a product that people really didn't want because we didn't do that level of customer discovery initially. And I think it would have been really easy to get discouraged, right, when we were getting a lot of no's in the conversations. But those no's and those conversations really are what got us closer to being able to have a product that was like desirable and was filling a need. Um, and so like, I want to echo this piece, right, of like not wasting time, but also like a lot of times there is like information in the nose, right? Like if you like double down and like really try to understand, versus, just taking the emotion, of the rejection. And so I think that's been one thing that's, been really big for us. And then I think, DeAndre, you talked about it. I feel like whenever you've got a smaller company and you're selling to an enterprise, right, like they're going to push on pricing for you, like always. And so, right, just being able to have something like tangible, right, that you can go back to, like real numbers, real data points, that helps you be able to stand your ground.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that. Like, I don't think people can argue against results. So if you have like your case studies, if you have your data points, if you have like this is what X customer experience with this is how we save them time, this is how we save them money, you'll find that they won't actually want to negotiate as much because they're like, oh, I see the value in that. I think I see like when people are really trying to negotiate, especially when it comes to price, it's that they don't necessarily think the value that they're getting matches the price that you've told them. So making sure that you can clearly and explicitly state the value and that they see the value and it's resonating with them is going to get you far.
That part.
If I can just add one last layer, understand your social capital as well, because it's one thing to know that you have a platform. It's another thing to understand the social capital that you have behind it. And so if you have a brand that has a platform, so not only are you quantifying the results that you'll have for that brand, but you can quantify every impression or every follower and their expansion as well, to where your distribution, there's this thing that brands love that they don't pay for. It's called reshares. So if you do a campaign and your campaign does well on your platform, but then you get people to reshare it for free, that's added value to them that they didn't have to pay you for. But now you need to understand that, to where it's like, well, typically any type of content that I post or leverage that on your brand. So not only are you partnering with me, you're partnering with my audience. You can then quantify that as well, to where they go on and you think about the web that you expand. Well, now that web started with me, but now it's got 7 different layers because this person shared it and that person picked up on it and shared it as well. So just knowing the social capital that you actually have, and don't forget about that when you're negotiating on your behalf.
Can I just add to that one thing?
Please.
And don't be afraid to renegotiate a contract. If you have started something and you see that oh, this might be going a little faster, your results are better than expected, or you're hitting your KPIs faster than the timeline, go back to the drawing deck, be like, hey, I've done that with the store that we're in, 13 Loon. I really wanted more visibility in their store. And for a while, nobody was listening to me. And one day, Savannah James shopped Skimmies from 13 Loon. And I was like, okay, look at this. look at how this video that we posted with Savannah did, you know, look at what's going on. And immediately, you know, they're like, all right, let's come to the table and let's renegotiate. So don't be afraid to be like, hey, I bring more value. Let's make this beneficial for both of us.
That was huge. Thank you for putting that on top right there about just like, you know, knowing your value. And again, the data. It's right there. I love that point. I love that so much. We're about I don't know, five or so minutes out from Q&A. I got a couple more questions here, but make sure everybody's putting your questions in the Q&A because that's what we're going to light it up after these questions are finished from me. Okay, so Neandre, how did you, like with Black menswear, right? How did you maintain? Because I mean, like you're Black menswear on the screen right now, like 100. So like, it's such an authentic identity. How did you maintain that while forging partnerships? Right. And again, like what you talked about in the very beginning about not moving away from yourself, but like finding that compromise. And then like the second part of that question is what were some of the steps or what are some of the steps that other founders can take to really preserve and honor their brands while exploring these collaborative, you know, partnerships? Because you know that everybody and their mama is going to try to tell you what you should be doing, right?
Yeah.
How do you just maintain that?
Well, so early on, it was as we had a number of conversations that came about, and I love how everybody's kind of said this authenticity of keeping who you are. And I'll go back early stages of the organization when we first started the flash mobs and people wanted to buy the flash mob. That was something that we said we would never do because the flash mob it's meant to be authentic time for Black men to meet, network, get to know each other, talk about some problems that we might be having going on at the crib, but it's a safe space. And you have somebody that can come and buy that, then it changes that. It takes away that because now I want to talk about my brand and now I want to talk about the initiatives of my company. It's different, right? So for us, we were like, no, this is not this. We don't want to get rid of this. Like we got to keep this authenticity. But you know, we could turn it into a weekend to where we can have an event on Friday night that the brand can now sponsor. We can have an event on Saturday afternoon that the brand can now sponsor. We can do podcast episodes that we record while we're in these cities that the brand can now sponsor. We can do a community service event that the brand can now sponsor in that weekend. So now we took it from one singular event and we expanded the opportunity in relation to that thing because that was our breadwinner at the time, right? People wanted to be associated with us bringing Black men together, and so we took the approach, and that's one of those the statements that we picked up during the COVID was how you pivot is how you prosper, because COVID shut us down when our bread and butter is bringing people together. And so then we were like, all right, so how do we keep these conversations going? Boom, we launched a podcast, right? Then we come out of COVID and it's like, all right, well, it's 2020, 2021. We got this podcast. We want to associate it with this. So we've got this YouTube series called Dapper Conversation. So for us, it was really about how do we now expand upon what we have to be able to keep us organic. Now, fast forward a little bit, the brands are reaching out and say, hey, well, we want you to do this campaign. And we're like, well, that doesn't necessarily fit who we are, but you know who it does fit? It fits Dr. Jake, who's one of the influencers that comes to all of our events. Hey, Jake, let me hit you up, bro. Would you like to do this? He said, yeah, I want to do it, but I don't really know how to manage that type of stuff. Don't worry, bro. We got you. Follow these deliverables. We're going to help you understand that. So now we can help Jake expand his brand into a space where he's like, oh, now I know how to do brand deals, but I don't know how to do it. I call Black menswear. You know what I'm saying? And so now we've been able to take some of those solicitations that came to us that weren't in the space that we were in. We weren't trying to do that. We weren't trying to go over there. We were very distinct, but now we were able to put other people on and then I put money into other creators' pockets, but it still allowed us to be who we were and brands kept coming. That's how we created the influencer agency off of that mindset of, okay, well, this isn't for us, but who is it for? Oh, let me get it over here to this brother. So that way he can understand. And now we've helped him to educate him on, hey, you see why that worked? Next time, do a little bit of this, do a little bit of that, make sure the results come back the way you want them, follow up on the back end. And so we were able to expand for us, right? So we kept who we were, we expanded around it, and then those opportunities that came in, we were able to offer them to adjacent partners to again help us to expand into this cultural impact agency that we're in now.
That's phenomenal. That's so powerful. And you were able to continue to keep the simplicity and like the full forward focus of what you initially set out to do without losing the peripheral opportunities, right? You were, yeah. I mean, like you were able to like rise right, rise all the boats with the tide of like all the different things that were coming in for y'all specifically. So I think that's great, and a really great kind of strategic way to look for other founders that are looking to build out those things when they're like, well, I can't do that right now, but I want to, boom, there's somebody in the community. Because now you become even more viable and credible for the people that are kind of in the periphery of your network. So I love that ecosystem building. All right, so last question before we pop over into Q&A, because we're about 1 to 2 minutes out for that. I know that everybody is chomping in the bits to get to that Q&A, so I'm excited to hit those up. So this will be the last one for me specifically, but this one is for this is for you, Dumebe. So after Chezzy was launched, how did you all leverage your initial traction and those customer success stories, right? When you were pitching. So it's because it's more than just the data. Like we're talking about, data and facts and all those things, but those stories, especially specifically in your industry with what you do, how you help out those companies. How did you leverage some of those when approaching folks?
Yeah. So I think, the way our sales process works is we have the initial conversation, we have the discovery call, we learn about their pain points, and then that next call, we take them through a demo of our platform. And while we're showing them the demo, you're trying to make sure that you're weaving in customer case studies to say, like, this is how they use this feature, and this is the value that was driven from that feature. So like, for example, one of our features one of like our values is, time saved, managing your ERGs. We can reinforce that with a case study we did from one of our customers, Chegg, and say they save 30 hours a week now in their ERG administrative work. And people are always like, oh, wow. So like it reinforces that whatever data point you're trying to deliver. And I think people need that like social proof, right? Like you can't say something without having some type of data point to back it up. So I think that's actually what's going to sell people, is just like making sure that other customers are actually reaping the value that you say that you can deliver. So I would make sure for people who are just starting, maybe you have 1 or 2 customers, make sure that you're constantly checking in with those customers to say, like, these are the KPIs that we said that we wanted to solve for you. What are the updates every, quarter? How have we, helped your ERGs, helped whatever thing you solve for, and then making sure that you can articulate that on your like other customer conversations.
I love that. I love that so much. Y'all are just stacking them up. You're just like, bow, I got you here. I got you. I mean, please, I love that. That's so amazing. All right, we're about to go into Q&A. I'm looking at all the questions in Q&A. Remember to upvote. So if you are in the audience and you see a question and you're like, yes, I'm going to double tap on that, please do, because it pops it up higher. We're about to get that started. And then just a little reminder for all the attendees as well. I know if you have been poured into like I have, you're going to want to hit up that social lounge, which is going to happen right after the Q&A. So that's where the Kiki happens. Y'all can pop into the social lounge afterwards. There'll be a little countdown like there was last time. And then you can just go in there and network. Founders, if y'all have the capacity, we would love to have y'all in there too. And so you can go in there and they can talk and ask all the, questions and kind of chew on some more things and flesh it out. But the first question we have up is from Kiana. This is a great question. Here we go. Okay. Mogul Millennials behind the scenes, if y'all could put it up on the screen. I don't know how to do that because I'll mess something up. Yay, wonderful. I don't want to break anything. So specifics on partnership terms, right? Kiana's asking, what specifically did y'all offer and what did you ask for? So if 2 of our founders could pop in and answer this, what thing that did you kind of offer, and then what did you ask for in return? Great question.
I can answer. So we do this yearly brunch where we invite buyers and founders and investors and people of that nature. It became this big thing that it's like 200 people, and we don't have the money to do that because we ain't got the money for 200 people at a brunch. But this past year, we decided that we were going to do it for Black History Month. Now we're a Black-owned brand. Our budget was about $40,000 that we wanted to kind of help with our nonprofit, also host the event and sponsor and also pay these Black-owned companies that we were sourcing from fairly. So what we offered, we have a beautiful deck. We have a great partnership deck that we built. Our deck is very concise and clear. I like to say it's like It's straight to the point. It's exciting. We're peacocks on our deck, and it has clear tiers that we offer them. Part of those tiers, we say like we have 4 options with people. In addition to the 3 that we had talked about, the 4 options when we're asking for partnerships, if we're like specific sponsorship, for instance, we say there's money, there's the monetary value, and then there's either product or service value. And in return, we offer our branding and our products. So we're a CPG brand. So we're saying like, hey, if you sponsor us this brunch in February, when Q4 comes around, you have corporate giftings to do. We will also give you this amount discount off. We do that with Amazon, for instance. They gave us about $5,000. We'll give you this. Or the venue, for instance, they sponsored a percentage off the normal cost. We now supply, some of their bathrooms. We'll stock your bathrooms, and we'll have your clients also have a discount. In addition to that, outside of the product, we have a zine of about 2,000 plus readers quarterly that we release. That's something that we offer back to them. Hey, your brand will have a write-up or a feature or a section in the zine in this many readers. And then lastly, we have a very active social media presence and newsletter. We always like to say we don't force you. We don't want to trick you into subscribing. We want you to naturally want to subscribe, so it keeps us really engaging. Then we give you FaceTime on there too. So think of how when you say offering back, it can be whatever it needs to be. You have a plethora of things on your Rolodex that you can offer. I remember one time we wanted an advisor. She was the ex-CMO of Glossier. We wanted her to come in and be an advisor at our company. Now we don't have the money for her, but we did like really get to think, what does this woman need that we can offer her outside of equity? And one of the things she thought was so funny, I researched her. I had gone to a couple of brunches with her. I knew that she had just moved to LA and she had 2 kids. I was like, girl, I can babysit for you. Now, I'm not saying go babysit people's kids now. But what I'm saying is you can think so outside the box that people will appreciate that you have considered, them to that extent that they'll be willing to talk to you. So just don't fall into the trope of like normalcy or what you think is expected of you. Really sit down and be like, what can I really do? Can I help you with your branding? What can I really bring to this company? Whether it's big scopes like Amex or little things like just wanting somebody to be an advisor. Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. Like all laughs aside, I think the fact that you were just like, what does this woman need, right? How am I going to bring value to her as a human? Let me help her out with those kids, because we know. So that's did she? No one asked this. This is a me question. No one's even asking this. Did you do it? Did she take you up on it?
She was so impressed. She came on for free. She's still our advisor, Jamin,
Wow.
and then she brought her husband, who was like an advisor for Netflix as well, onto the team. So
wow.
I didn't babysit her kids, but it just I mean, there were other offers there, but just being so cheeky with it and being myself with the offering allowed us to have a better conversation. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love that. I'm going to flip it up and be like, do you want to babysit my kids? And then see how many partners. That's amazing. Does anybody else want to pop in on that one before we move to the next question? All right, cool. It feels like that was wonderfully answered. Thank you so much. All right, this one specifically for Neandre, right? So given that your business started off centering a movement and a vision versus a tangible product, right? Versus a CPG, what KPIs did you use to convey your value to potential partners, and how has that changed since? Yes, this is a loaded question. Love this one.
That's actually a great question. And firstly, like one of the things that's really important to understand as you're delivering KPIs is you got to have a conversation with that brand partner first to understand what their KPIs are, right? So on our end, the fact that we're able to galvanize guys together, and so we can go to any market, bring at least 200 guys together. You think about the social capital that comes with that. We can get them to go. We'll have this event, the mixer event. So really, for me, I'm looking at how can I leverage our ability to bring people together for this brand to then relate and put their product, service, whatever, directly in front of the guys. And basically they've gotten our vouch, because they're like, if you guys allow for this company to come here, they must be doing something right. And so they have a clear ear to hear what it is that the brand's mission is or anything like that. But again, as you start working with different brands, Some of them didn't care that we brought 200 Black men together. They cared that we had 450,000 followers on social media. So they're like, I don't care. That's a small number. I want to have access to all of those people, right? And so for them, you know, that aspect didn't matter for them, right? And so then we had, you know, first went into these conversations, and I love the way it was presented earlier about first conversation is discovery. What's important for you? What are your KPIs? Like, what do you even give a dang about? So now that I know what you give a dang about, now I'm going to present it in a way that what it is that we offer. So not the fact that we offer the content development for you, but maybe be the fact that we offer the strategy and we know the data around any community. We know the culture wholeheartedly, but we can tap into culture a little bit more from a data perspective to know, okay, well, Black men and women in Atlanta feel this way about these type of things. So if you're going to do a strategy this way, this is the way it should be. We had a conversation with a partner that we're trying to pitch for a full year's campaign partnership for next year. And they said, man, you know, we're a Black-owned brand. We're doing extremely well, but we missed the mark on our last couple of campaigns because the person that we hired in, I mean, it was shot so beautifully. The talent that they brought in was great, but we're a grooming company and Buddy didn't have no edge up. So we put this campaign out and Black people drug it. And it's like, well, that's one thing that you got to understand from a campaign perspective. What's important, right? Well, the audience in this case is important. So their KPI in that case was going deeper within the community, within that audience. Well, they missed the mark there, right? So, but we would have understood that, or different brand partners or different marketing agencies that they work with will understand that. And so it's really about finding that out early enough up front, so that way you can then relay something that has value to those brands. And so we started with our, you know, our ability to bring people together, get people in front of a brand, but then expanded outside beyond that once we understood what brand actually were, whether it was, you know, we got to roll out a product on the East Coast, so we need East Coast sentiments to be raised, so that way we understand that we can go and sell this product to the East Coast. Cool, we can do that. We can do a campaign directly for the East Coast, right? So just being able to understand those, to now we can, whatever your KPIs are, we have the team and the ability to deliver when it comes to marketing, campaigning, and bringing people together.
There it is. Okay. Thank you for that answer. Super thoughtful. I'm laughing about the edge up. Let me refocus because I would have been mad. All right. So this next question, it says it's from Kyla, and it's like, when you are a startup, most of the time you can only be so valuable to big companies. Yes. So can you give an example where a partnership worked out when you were early? So didn't have a ton of traction. Also, are these partnerships ones in which they pay?
Yeah, I'll say like the first contract that we closed, where we were at just in terms of product and business was honestly that kind of laughable, right? Like we had a Wix landing page and we were using Airtable as like our backend. Like we didn't have like functioning software because we had to go back to the drawing board and build something new. But with that being said, right, it's like we had all these conversations where we were getting no's, so we knew what people needed. And so in terms of just presenting what our offering was, right, like we presented an offering that we didn't actually even have like the technology to go do. And like we needed to go do manually. But I mean, like that's part of entrepreneurship, right? That's part of like being a startup is just getting scrappy. You're spending some extra hours sometimes when you don't have things all the way automated yet, you know, to be able to do those things, right? And so like that first customer was Dell Technologies, right? But it's like now we've got Dell on the website and we start talking to other folks, our level of credibility went through the roof. And so, you know, I would recommend for folks, you know, really you should start talking to folks before you feel like you're ready. And that's like typically I feel like how a lot of those first deals get closed.
1,000%. I think, especially as like a SaaS company, in the beginning, it's like all duct taped together. It's it's people doing some stuff in the background, uploading files that people thought was like automatically downloaded and whatnot. But similar to us, one of our early partnerships or customers was actually the NBA. I actually am not a believer in free trials when it comes to software, just because it actually takes a lot of time to work within that company's system when it comes to like integrations, getting the software configured, all that stuff. And like that is a waste of your resources, especially as a small team, to do all this. And then for a free trial, since they have no skin in the game, they can just be like, okay, I'm not going to use it. So you should, We did give them a discount. It was probably like a 75% discount, but they were still, you know, getting invoiced for it every month. They were still caring about like how it worked. So I would say, like, one, you'd be surprised at how much a company will invest in you just because they believe in your vision. They believe in like what you ultimately say you will do. But then two, don't sell yourself short when it comes to like free trials and stuff. Like, they should be paying something, even if it's not full price. Make sure that they're paying something, because if not, they don't actually care about it all that much. They won't check in. It's just going to be almost like a failure.
Yeah, I think that's a super important point, right? Like getting them, because they have to have some skin in the game. You know, they've definitely got to have some skin in the game, and what they pay for, they're going to keep their eyes on a bit closer. And so you'll be able to even use some of their feedback to strengthen your positioning for your next partner. That's not going to have a 75% discount. Maybe it's 50, right? But you're edging up. Chandler, I hit you up in the chat. I was like, don't hate on Wix. Don't hate on Wix. Wait a minute now. I was definitely a person in high school. My side mirror was duct taped. Hey, if it clicks, it hits. But yes, great. Great question. The next one we're going to do is from Erica. We got a couple more minutes in Q&A. So if y'all have questions out here and they haven't been answered, please drop them in. But Erica is asking, at what point in your journey did you know that you were ready for corporate partnership? So it's super funny because, you know, Chandler, you were just saying like, you know, do it before you're ready, kind of just like get out there and get it going. But when did you feel like, okay, now we're about to go into this and take it to the next level?
Yeah. You know, I think after we got that first contract, and I mean, you know, I think there's also just like a survival element of things, right? Where you're like, okay, we're all in on this. Some things didn't work out in the beginning. Like, we need to figure something out because like there's folks on payroll, you know, here. And so, you know, I think there was like some survival aspect also that made us go out, you know, before we felt like we were ready. But I mean, at the end of the day, right, like that's how you go get wins, right? Like, I think you can sit on the sideline and do the whole like analysis paralysis thing and, you know, redo your deck over, redo your product over and over and over again. Like, nothing is going to be all the way perfect, right? You go to these Fortune 500 companies, right? And like nothing is all the way perfect, right? And so, you know, I think being able to just understand when can I actually convey the value that we're stating that we can convey. And when you feel like you can go convey that value, it's time to press go.
Love that. Yeah.
I agree with you, Chandler, there, because in another way that you can do it too is, you know, maybe you go small, right? So we talked about earlier about you tiering out your services and tiering out your packages and tiering out you know, the thing that you offer to these companies. If you're not ready to tier out all to your top tier, then come out and see who you can get to nibble on the bottom tier, right? That you know, like, I know this piece of the business is going to work, right? I know I've had real success here, and see how you can kind of get in on that value in that stage. But like Chandler mentioned, like when you get that first one, you walk a little different because now you're like, okay, all right, I know this is here, and let that ACH come in. It's one thing to get $300, it's another thing to get $3,000, another thing to get $30,000, and then to get $300. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's stages to it, and so to be able to have that first stage, whether it's small, get those small victories because that makes you move different about your company, especially as a founder. Ain't nobody here, and Chris Rock said it in Tambourine as his comedy. He was talking to his daughter, and he was like, when you go outside these doors, don't nobody give a about you. You know what I'm saying? You got to, in these walls, you got to talk yourself up. And so when you get those small victories, like celebrate them, you know, because that's gonna give you the confidence to, and it might give you the confidence in the bread that you needed to take that product from stage 3 to stage 4 and then stage 4 to stage 5, because now you're leveraging. And one thing too, don't be afraid to, you know, especially early time in startup, that money, a lot of that money needs to stay in your business. A lot of times people cash out too quickly. Chandler had a whole staff. That's a different conversation. But when you don't have people that are on payroll and it's yourself, a lot of times, like, you taking a lot more of that money than you should, and you're slowing down the expansion of your resources in your business. Man, find a way and get a second side hustle to support your first side hustle. But a lot of that money go back into the business so that way you can get your business quicker to where it's supposed to be, your technology, your efficiencies, your email system, your CRM, all that stuff. Because to the point that you do get those brand conversations, well, they're going to expect a certain level of communication. They're going to expect a certain level of professionalism. So utilize a lot of that money to help build that, early on.
Amazing. That's a great response. I know that we're coming to a close. I know we just had Dumebe pop off, but we'll be able to link up with people, find people's LinkedIn's. I said this in the last panel, take all the screenshots, spell all the names correctly, connect with these founders. If and when they have capacity, they will reach out to you. I know I'm speaking on behalf of y'all, but correct me if I'm wrong. Super excited to have you all today. I mean, the conversation was everything. I personally benefited so much. I know that my company is going to be so much stronger for it. The chat was on point. Q&As were everything. But thank you. Here's Brittany. I'm going to shut up.
Thank y'all so much. I know earlier my audio was choppy, so if it still is, Madeline, I'm going to need to come today. But Chandler, Isnay, Neandre, everybody who participated today, thank y'all so much. This was so great. I've been over here taking notes. I love all of y'all deeply, and grateful for the time that you spent taking, just sharing with us and dropping all the gems. As Madeline mentioned earlier, you guys, we have the social lounge next, and we intentionally curated each table so that way you can hop from table to table, know each other, and keep the connections going. And so if you're available and if you're free, and if you want to just continue to meet other people, after this session ends, there'll be a brief countdown again. And then you can hop and visit whatever table that you please. You can turn your camera on, you can turn your audio on, and you can just chat with everyone. Before we hop off, I want to also give a shout out to Val again for sponsoring this. If you were an early bird ticket holder, then you know that you receive some lunch on us. And so shout out to you if you were one of the ticket holders. But we have events like this all the time in Mogul Millennial. Our next event will be next month in Austin during Austin Startup Week. And so if you live in Austin or are going to be in Austin during Austin Startup Week, check your email so that way you can get an invite to that. But thank y'all again. Madeline, thank you for moderating both panels. And then Chandler, Neandre, and Esne, do y'all have anything you want to, share or any announcements? This is I want to give y'all the floor. So
you're going to give me the flow. It's like church. I got an announcement always. Firstly, Brittany, appreciate you. Appreciate the platform. Appreciate you doing what you do for our community because you need it. I'm going to tell you, Brittany, can you go on mute? Mute because you got a feedback and we talked about that earlier. But also we Black Menswear, Black Wealth Renaissance, which is arguably the second largest Black wealth podcast platform out there. The Black Man Can and Surf Forth events. We are actually coming together next weekend in Atlanta for the Black Men Summit. So brothers out there, if you are based in Atlanta, we'd love you to pull up to the Black Men Summit. It is a half-day summit of pouring into, right? We've got Dr. Jamal Bryant coming and kicking us off with a keynote. We've got Marcus Barney, aka him 500, come in and tap in with us, drop some entrepreneur gems. We got Julian Gordon teaching brothers how to get into the real estate game. We've got James Anthony talking about the balance between parenting and the successful photography business and creativity business. Trey Bryant is coming in talking about Black men in style. And then we've also got my boy, Derek Grace coming in and talking about manhood, family, but just really this aspect of, of men and being a safe space for men to grow, develop, sponsored by Shea Moisture. So, if you guys are in Atlanta, we'd love you to come to the Black Men Summit next weekend. It's on next Saturday in Atlanta. You go to blackmensummit.com for more information. Thank you, Brittany, for the quick second there. I think And Chandler, we'll be in Miami in December.
Cool. Hit me. I'll be there.
thank you guys. This was a great experience. I don't have nothing to add, but just good luck and feel free to. I'm horrible with my messages. I'm great with email. So shoot me a good email and I'll respond. But yeah, thank you so much. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Brittany, thank you as always. Definitely encourage people to check out the platform. We actually just went live today. www.yourpath.ai. So yeah, thank you, Brittany, and hope this was helpful for everybody.
Congratulations to all the founders. Y'all are you're doing all the things. We're definitely going to keep our eye out for y'all. I hear Brittany back on, so I'm going to exit. Everyone enjoy the social lounge. It's been great. Mogul Millennial. Yeah, have a good one.
All right, y'all, let's keep it going. It's going to be another countdown. And if you want to continue to network, you have about an hour to do so in the social lounge.